Wagwan class, this is Simo. Now, I know everything is kind of crazy with coronavirus and COVID. I just want to tell everybody as much as they can, stay home, keep safe, wash your hands, sanitize, all of that. Um, Edmodo has been a decent look up our program, but it's not as interactive as I'd like. So I decided I was going to just do a few video sessions where we kind of have the discussions we would have had in class. You see me? So what I'm going to do is basically do a quick summary of the chapter. We're going to start with Of Mice and Men. I'm going to do a quick, small summary of the chapter. If you have this version of Mice and Men, the summaries that I'm going to read from is in there. So please don't just read the summary, read the chapter as well. But if you read the summary, I'm okay with that. I don't want you to think I don't want anybody reading summaries. You know me, I'm okay with the reading of summaries. So I'm going to do the quick summary. What I'm also going to do now is I'm going to have a topic that I focus on for chapter 1. So we'll have about 3 video sessions where I do chapter 1, and I'm going to do a different topic each, and then I will move on to chapter 2. I'm going to have discussion questions. I'm going to try to add a little video clip from the movie of Mice and Men, which is pretty accurate, but it doesn't have all of the finer details that I think we need to really discuss this book and the themes in this book. Now, another thing that I want us to do, another thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take quotes from the book itself. I'm going to read the quotation and I'm going to kind of discuss what I want you guys to think about when we analyze these quotes. These would be class discussions where I would ask the class to tell me what they think about a quotation and things like that. So what I will ask, that when I talk about certain quotes in Edmodo, you can start a discussion, you can comment on the thread. So wherever I post this video, in the comment section, you guys can comment on the discussion questions, comment on the quotations and things like that. And on the third day, so there will be 3 video sessions for each chapter. And then on the third one, just like I would have done in class, you get a little quiz on the chapter. Just like I was doing the quizzes for Animal Farm. Anyway, so let's start off quickly by just going through the summary of section 1. Itinerant workers George, Milton, and Lenny Small rest in a clearing by the river on their way to a nearby ranch where they expect to sign on for temporary work. They have hurriedly left the last ranch where they worked, following an incident following Lenny. Lenny pleads with George to tell him over and over again about their dream ranch, where Lenny's main task will be to tend the rabbits. This also asks, what do you think? As you read this first section, consider how important the setting is as an opening to the novel. For example, what is the significance of the peaceful scene by the river in contrast to the trouble which George and Lenny have left behind in Weed? Weed is the name of the last ranch that they were at. And in preparation for the events which might lie ahead at the new ranch. Think also about the significance of Steinbeck's references to the natural world in this opening section. Now, as you may figure, the first topic I want to actually look on is setting. Now, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck happens during the Great Depression. In the last Edmodo post that I made, I gave you guys a link on the Great Depression. Please, if you have not watched it, go back and watch it now. Now, what John Steinbeck likes to talk about is how Americans dealt with the Great Depression. The Great Depression, just a quick Wikipedia summary that I pulled up here. The Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression that took place mostly during the 1930s. Beginning in the United States, the timing of the Great Depression varied across the world. In most countries, it started in 1929 and lasted until the late 1930s. It was the longest, deepest, and most widespread depression of the 20th century. The Great Depression is commonly used as an example of how intensely the global economy can decline. The Great Depression started in the United States after a major fall in stock prices that began around September 4th, 1929 and became worldwide news with the stock market crash of October 29, 1929, known as Black Tuesday. Now, what you found was that when the stock market crashed in 1929, there were a lot of very wealthy people who lost all their money. All their money. So people who didn't really have talents or trades and things like that were searching for jobs, was searching for food. People were dying, and it was a big shift in the world because this was happening to a lot of very wealthy people. People who had acres and big houses and big land now had nothing. So the Great Depression really saw people scrambling in the world, especially in America. Now, what John Steinbeck focuses on is how America dealt with this and how certain things like class, race, mental issues, all of these things affected them because here are the people who had a lot, who have nothing now. How do they respond? How do you find jobs? And a lot of people had to go for farm work. And I think the reason why farm work was so big was because not even paid, because most farms you could find shelter and you could find food. So you find that a lot of these farms, they didn't give you any pay until like a week because people would get pay and then just leave. You understand? Some people just came and they just wanted food for 2 days. And after about 2 or 3 days, they would eat a meal, do some work, and then they would leave. So these farms would have a lot of jobs available because people were migrating a lot. So that's why a lot of them are migrant workers. And as it said, they were looking for temporary work. They wasn't looking for something long term. They were looking for something just to fill their bellies, just to make a little money so they can move again and try find something more permanent. With regards to setting as well, so that's the Great Depression, and that's the effect that the Great Depression had in general. This is just what is happening in America at the time. Now, in Of Mice and Men, the first setting that we notice is being spoken about, and I will try to put this link and setting in Edmodo as well, is California, Soledad, California. Now, a lot of the warm states in America had a lot of farm work, mostly because they weren't bothered by the elements like weather. So northern states that would have snow, they were very seasonal. So when it's during the cold and the snow, they can't do any farming. So places like California, Texas, Florida, a lot of those places had farm work available all the time. And you find that these were a lot of the places where racism was big because that's where a lot of the slave farms used to be and the plantations. Now, Soledad, California. The majority of the story of Mice and Men takes place on a ranch in Soledad, California. The action is presented in only 4 settings: at the riverbed, the bunkhouse, Crook's room, who you're going to meet eventually when we speak about race, and the barn, which lends to the dramatic quality of the text. Salinas Riverbank. The story begins at the end at the Salinas Riverbank, a few miles outside of the ranch where George and Lenny start working. George and Lenny camp there for the night prior to moving on to the ranch in the morning. Readers are introduced to the men's dreams of owning a plot of land there for the first time. George also forebodingly instructs Lenny to return to the riverbank in case he gets into any trouble. While at the beginning of the story, the space represents hope in the American dream. Now, the American dream is something we're going to touch on later. But the American dream is basically an ideology or a theory that if you work hard enough, you will get there. Or no matter what your situation is, as long as you work hard, you can get there or you can be whatever you want to be. Now that is the American dream. American dream becomes a very deep theme because some people believe that it's true, some people believe it's a hoax, because there is an idea that yes, you can work hard to get certain things, but there are other factors that can stop you from being who you want to be or what you want to be. For example, race, gender, class, all of these things can slow down the American dream. But there are some who believe that, there are examples of the American dream where people who overcome race. But that's a deeper topic for another day. Just to finish up, represents hope in the American dream. It comes to represent the shattering of that hope as, almost spoiler alert, Right. Now, moving on from the actual description of Soledad, I want to actually read through some of the quotes. And then when we read through the quotes, I'm going to just, so I'm going to have the quotes and I'll call it, I think it's 3 quotes. Right, I have 3 quotations and I will just call it quote 1, quote 2, and quote 3. And then in the comments, if you want to say something about the quotes, then we can move from there. All right. A few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in. A few miles south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the hillside bank and runs deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has slipped twinkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foothill slopes curve up to the strong and rocky Gabilan Mountains. But on the valley side, the water is lined with trees, willows, and fresh green with every spring, carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter's flooding, and sycamores with mottling white recumbent limbs, and branches that arch over the pool. On the sandy bank, on the sandy bank under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs across them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered with the night tracks of coons, with the spread pads of dogs from the ranches, and with the split wedge tracks of deer that come to drink in the dark. Now he goes on to describe the setting a little bit more. What I want us to actually focus on is how John Steinbeck wants to put us in the natural setting, right? An interesting thing that has come up during this corona situation is because everybody is home, the roads are clear, the waters are clear, and a lot of people say that nature is kind of taking a rest or breathing. What I like about this opening is that nature is breathing. We can hear how the natural elements are just existing. It's not bothered by people. It just speaks about the mountains, the water, the hills, all of those things. It speaks about raccoons and dogs and deer that come through the forest itself. It speaks about how green it is. It speaks about how lush it is. I mean, what I think John Steinbeck is trying to do is to make us see the beauty of what it is. Because who knows? Maybe something dark can happen. Maybe man ruins it a little bit. And the setting that he puts out there is one of natural beauty, right? And then we get to see how the characters add to that setting. So I think it's very interesting how he breaks that down. What I also realize about John Steinbeck's use of setting is that his descriptions are so detailed. He puts us there. He wants you to feel like you're in that actual forest. He wants you to feel like you're by the riverbed. He wants you to mentally put your physical body there so that when he's describing other things, you are so into that area that you're not going to be confused. You're not going to think, oh, where are they? You understand? You're fully encaptured in this place. And I really love that type of description from John Steinbeck. Now, the next quote, that was quote 1. What I'd like you guys to do is tell me how that description helps you to understand where they are. You understand? It also can show them the journey ahead. I should add that as well, because remember, they're walking, they're trying to find, this is not main roads where they can take a taxi, they can't call a Uber. You understand? They are walking to this place. Quote dos. Now, the second quotation is a little deeper, and it kind of touches onto the American dream that I was talking about, where I almost gave away a spoiler. And it goes, okay, someday we're gonna get the jack together, and we're gonna have a little house and a couple of acres and a cow and some pigs. And live off the fat of the land, Lenny shouted, and have rabbits. Go on, George. Tell about what we're going to have in the garden, about the rabbits in the cages, and about the rain in the winter, and the stove, and how thick the cream is on the milk, like you can hardly cut it. Tell about that, George. Why don't you do it yourself? You know all of it. No, you tell it. It ain't the same if I tell it. Go on, George. How I get to tend the rabbits? Well, said George, we have a big vegetable patch, and a rabbit hutch, and chickens. And when it rains in the winter, we'll just say hell with going to work. And we'll build up the fire to the stove and set around it and listen to the rain coming down on the roof. Now, why it's important to look at it is he is explaining his dream by describing the setting. But it is a future setting. It is a hopeful setting. It is a setting of where they want to live, the type of ranch they want to have. And if you notice, all of that lushness that we spoke about earlier, it's being described in one sentence: live off the fat of the land, which means that the earth itself is what they want to give them their food, their shelter. They want to get their shelter from the trees. They want to get their food from the earth. You understand? Lenny wants to tend to rabbits. You understand? He's very enthralled by small furry animals. And there's a part in chapter 1 where he's caught with a dead mouse, right? And that's where the title comes from. And I will talk about that when we're discussing characters. And that will be our next chapter 1 class will be about characters. But right now I want to focus on the setting. Even how it describes when it's raining and how the rain is coming down on the roof and they'll set up a fire and the amount of animals they'll have around them. When they describe their dream, they focus on the actual surroundings that they're in. And that to them is a very deep and important thing. Right? Cool. Now, next thing. Last quotation. Last quotation is very, very small. It's right at the end when John Steinbeck is describing, right? Just right at the end of the chapter, he's describing what it looks like when they're like falling asleep. They're getting ready for chapter 2, which is the next day. But look at how it's described. The red light dimmed on the coals. Up the hill from the river a coyote yammered, and a dog answered from the other side of the stream. The sycamore leaves whispered in a little night breeze. So look at how he ends this chapter. He's still talking about the physical setting. He's talking about the coals, which is something man-made, which is something that because this is the fire that they put when they want to make their dinner. Up the hill, the coyote is screaming from one side of the hill, the dog is screaming from the other side of the hill, and then the leaves, it's like everything is kind of making its own noise. Everything has its own life. And then the question that we have to ask is, how will George and Lenny's life affect the actual setting? How will that affect their life? Now, the last thing that we will actually look on is that there's going to be a video clip that I'm going to play that I pulled from YouTube. So we're going to play the video clip right now.
Not tonight.
Come on, dude. Tell like you done before. Please, please, please.
You get a kick out of that, don't you? Okay. I will. Guys like us that work on ranches are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family and they don't belong no place. They got nothing to look ahead to.
But dude, not us, dude. Tell about us.
Well, we ain't like that. No. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. If them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody cares.
But not us, dude, because I got you to look after me, but then you got me to look after. But dude, tell about how it's gonna be.
With someday, we're gonna have us a little house and a couple of acres, and the cow and the
pig and chicken.
Chicken.
And we're gonna live off the fat of the land, and
Yeah.
have rabbits.
And have
Go on.
rabbits.
But tell what we got in the garden.
Okay.
Then tell about the rabbits in winter, and about the stove, and how thick the cream was on the milk.
Yeah.
Like you did. Go ahead, George, tell
Well, why don't you do it yourself? You know all of it.
George, no, it's not the same. That when I tell it, that's not the same. Go tell how I get to tend the rabbit.
We're going to have a big vegetable patch. We're going to have a rabbit hutch. And down in the flat, we'll have a little field
piece
of
of
alfalfa
for the rabbit. And I get to tend the rabbit.
Yeah, you get to tend the rabbits. When it rains in the winter, we'll just say hell was going to work, and we'll just build a fire in the stove, and we'll just sit there, and we'll listen to the rain.
Now that you've watched the video clip, there are a few things that I actually want to discuss about that video clip. We have discussed the venue, the setting ourselves, and we got a chance to see it now in the video clip. So we get to see how one director portrays it. But I also want us to look at how George and Lenny interact with each other, how excited Lenny is speaking about where he wants to live, and how the darkness of their area can kind of foreshadow what might be about to come. You understand? Talking about the setting today was very important because it gets us to understand that a story is not just about who, it's also about where. You understand? It's not just about who, it's also about where. When we spoke about Animal Farm, the farm itself was a very important setting, right? And then it was compared to Russia, Soviet Union, and all of that. When we spoke about Miguel Street, the relatability of using Miguel Street as a Caribbean place and how that setting was easily can easily be thought of as Jamaica or another Caribbean country, Barbados, Bahamas, and whatever is happening in a third world Caribbean country, that setting becomes a very important thing. And the same way of Mice and Men uses this post or during Great Depression, well, post stock market crash, America, as a way to show the breakdown of what is happening. So keep that in mind. Don't mind the scruffiness, you know, I'm not really get to see a barber or nothing because of the coronavirus and COVID and all of these things. Stay at home, stay safe. This is the first class. I'm probably going to do about 10 of these, right, to kind of cover up Mice and Men. And then after that, we'll probably do some poetry and we'll figure out from there. But next class will be about characters and still chapter 1, right? So please read up chapter 1 because the quiz is coming. So it's been good. Big up on yourself.